Hey, Roger Martin here for Billings, Montana. Good day. This looks pretty powerful now. Look at the date of this. This is January 16th. So it's today, and 2020 has 15,000 views. I thought this was pretty impressive. Here goes. And it's put out by the State Times, goldenstatetimes.com.
And powerful right. There's nothing more important than that, I would say. We're joined by the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen, and students and advocates from across America. And advocates they were. They've been calling and writing by the thousands, and you're representing that large group of people. In a sacred principle of our republic that government must never stand between the people and God. Yet,
That's a pretty powerful statement, and yet our schools have been. Listen to the rest of this.
in public schools around the country, authorities are stopping students and teachers from praying, sharing their faith, or following their religious beliefs. It is totally unacceptable. You see it on the football field. You see it so many times where they're stopped from praying, and we are doing something to stop that. Tragically, there is a growing totalitarian impulse on the far left that seeks to punish, restrict, and even prohibit religious expression. Something that if you go back 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, it was unthought of that a thing like that could even happen, that anybody would even think of something like that happening. That is why today my administration is issuing strong new guidance to protect religious liberty in our public schools. The right of students and teachers to freely exercise their faith will always be protected, including the right to pray. So we call this the right to pray.
Including the right to pray. Wow, that's powerful.
Is that a good idea? Good, right? You like that, right? 9 federal agencies are also proposing new rules to roll back discriminatory regulations. So we have rules to roll back discriminatory regulations on religious service organizations. And earlier this afternoon, my White House released a new memo to make sure federal funding is never used to violate the First Amendment, which is a very big deal. With us today is Hannah Allen, a high school freshman from Texas. Hannah, would you tell us what happened at your school with respect to you and prayer? Hannah? Thank you, right here.
So, me and a group of students from my school wanted to pray for a former classmate's brother who had got hurt in an accident. After the prayer, our principal told us, "Don't do that again." So the next day, parents had called and complained. He told us that we could pray, but he said we had to hide in the gym or behind a curtain or somewhere away from everyone else. And I know that if this can happen in a small town in Texas, it can happen anywhere across America. And that's not right. No one should feel ashamed of their faith, especially in a school or anywhere.
Well, what ultimately happened? How was that resolved?
So we got with First Liberty. They've been amazing. They supported us the whole way. And they sent the school a letter, and the school complied with the letter and changed the.
And now you're able to do that?
We are.
Good. Well, now it's going to be much easier yet, okay? All right? Thank you, darling. That was beautiful. Thank you very much. We're also joined by Marilyn Rames, a former teacher and the founder of Teachers Who Pray. Marilyn, if you could let us know. Well, good. Thank you very much. Maybe you could give us a little bit of.
Now, it's important that they worked with the legal process and the legal people that this gal talked to school. But federally, they're going to work on this too. And this has been a big, big problem in schools. People weren't allowed to pray publicly and at forums and in other places, unfortunately.
About what happened?
Yeah, so thank you. I'm Marilyn Rames. I'm the founder and president of Teachers Who Pray. And I founded Teachers Who Pray because I, as a teacher, believe in the beauty of every child and the unlimited potential that resides within. However, the students that I was getting weren't set up for success because they were so significantly behind grade level. And I taught in Chicago Public Schools for 14 years, and during that time, we were losing students every year to gun violence. At one year, it was like 32 students getting killed, and I was overwhelmed with the heaviness of the work. So I thought about quitting, and I decided not to. I was going to fight, and I was going to pray and uplift my spirit so that I can do the job that I knew God had called me to do. So I began praying with other teachers in the building who were like-minded, and we really supported each other, built community, built more hope, built more joy in the work, despite it being so difficult. And we grew. Like right now, there's over 150 chapters of Teachers Who Pray because teachers need that spiritual support and guidance. And today, I believe it's super important because there is a myth out there that what Teachers Who Pray does and other organizations do for teachers, spiritual wealth is not legal, and it absolutely is. And I'm here to tell teachers that we need to pray. If you're of faith, we need to pray. We need to buckle up and just do what we have to do for our kids because they need us and they're dependent on us. And if we're not strong, we can't make them strong. So that's why I'm here.
That was really beautifully said. Thank you very much. That's beautiful. Thanks, Marilyn. So while I'm president, which will be hopefully for 5 years, and I don't know, maybe.
Okay, so here, she's getting with other like-minded teachers. The Spirit helps give us hope and encouragement. And when we work with one another and people of faith, that gives us hope and encouragement. So socially, that gives us encouragement, but so does prayer give us encouragement. So very well said by that teacher.
Maybe we'll work on, with the media, we'll work on a major extension of that. Right? But we will not let anyone push God from the public square. We will uphold religious liberty for all. And I want to thank you all, and God bless you all for being here. It's a great time in our country. We're doing things that nobody thought were possible. I'd like to ask, if I might, Secretary DeVos and Deputy Attorney General Rosen to say a few words about our actions, if you don't mind. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Betsy, please.
Thank you for your leadership, your courage, and your friendship to people of faith, especially our nation's children. Too many misinterpret a separation of church and state as an invitation for government to separate people from their faith. In reality, our Constitution doesn't exist to protect us from religion. It exists to protect religion from government. The First Amendment affirms our free exercise of religion, and we don't forfeit that first freedom to anyone.
Now, what DeVos is talking about is very fundamental, and we need to go back and listen to her very carefully because what she's saying is we've got things twisted. Again, people are twisting the truth. Listen to this.
And your friendship to people of faith, especially our nation's children. Too many misinterpret a separation of church and state as an invitation for government to separate people from their faith. In reality,
As government to separate people from their faith, but in reality, what we're trying to do is get government not in our faith and controlling our faith. There's a difference.
In reality, our Constitution doesn't exist to protect us from religion. It exists to protect religion from government.
To protect religion from government. There's a difference, a big difference.
The First Amendment affirms our free exercise of religion, and we don't forfeit that first freedom to anyone or in any place, especially in public schools. After all, it's been noted that as long as there are final exams in schools, there will always be prayer in schools. But thanks to your leadership, Mr. President, today we remind schools of the law with respect to religious expression, something that hasn't been done in more than 15 years. And where there are violations, we now make clear that the law requires states to establish a clear process for students, like Hannah and Michael, William, parents and teachers like Marilyn to report them. It also notes that the law directs states to tell us about any and all complaints as well. This administration and you is and always will be committed to ensuring all believers have the freedom to learn, to pursue our passions, to use our talents, and to live in accordance with the unique purpose that God has called us each to do. If we embrace that freedom, our faith will be a light no darkness can overcome. Thank you again, Mr. President,
Thank you very
for your
much.
leadership.
Beautiful. Thank you, Betsy, very much. Jeff?
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your leadership on this really critical issue. There are the fundamental freedom that you've been supporting of Americans to practice their faith is so important, is so appreciated by millions and millions of Americans. And at the Department of Justice, we remain firmly committed to enforcing Americans' constitutional rights, including this one. And so that's part of why I'm very honored and privileged to be a part of today's announcement on the new guidance document about prayer in school. I think sometimes people don't appreciate that there are many
A guidance document. Now, I don't know the details in this, but I can bet that it's going to encourage people to have a voice in their faith and in their belief as well as in their prayers. We'll find out more about this guidance document.
many Americans who feel called to pray during the day, and our First Amendment to our Constitution protects that. And sometimes I think there's a confusion about this issue as to whether it's trying to force people to pray who don't want to. But that's not what this is about. This is about protecting the rights of those who do to have the liberty to do that on school grounds. And that is protected by the First Amendment. So today's guidance reaffirms and clarifies and spells out for Americans what that freedom is with regards to prayer and religious expression. And I really think that the courage of people of faith, such as the folks we have here today, is really a reminder of how important our constitutional liberties are and of the great action that your administration is taking to ensure that they remain legally protected. And so again, Mr. President, I thank you and Secretary DeVos and the whole administration for the efforts to make this happen.
Very good job. Thank you.
Are legally protected. This is interesting, and I think it's a real turning point. I'm not going to listen to all 29 minutes of this. It might be well worth it. But I think this is a turning point. We'll see who challenges this. I'm sure that this will be challenged legally. But we'll see how it is challenged and whether it is upheld or not. I'm sure the battle is not over. Candice Rajamar from Billings, Montana. Good day. Pray for the president and pray that we do have our religious liberties and they are not fought over or smothered because of governmental laws or governmental procedures that don't allow us to pray or worship. Pray or express our faith in school. I said worship, but I apologize. Not worship. Schools, I don't believe, should be places of worship unless they are private schools. Public schools, I think, are different. They should be allowed to express themselves in their faith and should be allowed to pray. Worship is something else, but I think we're splitting hairs here. But legally, I think this will be challenged and be fought over in court. We'll see. Candice Rajamar from Billings, Montana. Pray for the president. Pray that for the faithful people in this nation that they might have religious liberty always. In Jesus Christ's name,